Welcome everybody to today's episode of eComBlab. My name is Melissa Paz, CEO of Lazy Bee Fields and full-time eBay seller. My co-host is Roger Key Sterling, CEO of Key Webco. And today we have two very special guests, Mark Levine from Bubble Fast and Gladys Ramos from Antiques Are Great. And everybody except me just came back from eComChicago, so they're going to be telling us about that amazing event. Mark, you were actually one of the sponsors and organizers of the event, right?
Well, yeah, we have a local meetup group run by Rich and Nyla Syak, and they took care of all the venue stuff. My wife Robin and I, as Bubble Fast, we were a sponsor, but we also got all of the speakers and the sponsors in line in the scheduling. So we did all that side of it, and Rich and Nyla did the venue portion of it. So everybody worked together as a team to get it put together. I think it went off pretty nice.
It was awesome.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. I told you, didn't I tell you guys last time when we did the pre-show that this year's eCom was going to be way better than last year's, and last year's was awesome.
I'd never been to one before. This was my very first one. So I don't have a comparison, but I will tell you this. In that room, when I was sitting down talking to people, I met so many in one place that were so awesome. I learned so many things so quickly. You know, I mean, it was just great. I mean, just to have that many people that know what they're doing in one place. Yeah, it was great.
That's awesome. I mean, I always find it incredibly educational, and it's just always, if you're surrounded by other people that are in the same venue as you, and you always learn from each other much faster if you're all in the same place together. So yeah, it definitely helps. So Mark, was it easier for you guys to do the event this year, since you already had the experience from last year?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me? Can you guys
now
hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay, I was getting a little bit of a delay. So I'm sorry, repeat the question.
No, was it
Melissa?
easier? Did you find it easier to get the event going this time around?
It was a lot more work because there was a lot more speakers and a lot more. It was actually a lot easier because the first year. Last year was the first year. It's always the hardest, and people don't know, should we do it? Should we do it? Not do it? Is it worth our while? Last year we got 123 people to attend. I thought that was fantastic because for a first-year conference to break 100 was a good goal. But I mean, it's Chicago, and we had some good speakers last year. But once you get the first year under your belt and people talk about it, which they did, because even before it ended last year, the question was, when are we doing it again next year? So we did it, and everybody was so excited to attend, to speak, to sponsor people.
We've got a little bit of delay on there with Mark, but
we were hoping to get
I'm so sorry, Mark. We're having a little bit of delay there.
Then all of a sudden, like we announced, we're sold out. Well, can I speak? Can I sponsor? Can I come? People want what they can't have, right? So
of course,
it was beautiful. So we actually ended up taking our lunchroom and kind of getting rid of it to open it up to even more attendees and more sponsors. So we ended up with 220 registrations, 12 or 13 sponsors, and 12 or 13 speakers. It was jam-packed to the minute. And Gladys, you were there. You had fun, right?
Yes, it was phenomenal. Truly.
Yeah, I want to hear how Gladys did, because I think this is your first big event where you were a speaker, right?
Yes, it was.
How did that go?
I was nervous, very nervous, but the response I got was everybody loved my presentation, which is always nice to hear. It was I have to thank Mark and Robin and Rich and Nyla and my crew who were there to support me for my first. What was that?
Team Gladys.
Yeah, Team Gladys, who were there to support me. It did help, to look out in the crowd and know half the people there,
Yeah.
and to have that support. So, thank you to everybody who was cheering me on. I really appreciate it.
So Gladys is actually a part of the same meetup group in Chicago. She did a presentation a couple months ago, and she did very well. And it's like, why are you so nervous for this one? Well, because I didn't do it in front of 200 people before, but she did a great job. She practiced, she rehearsed, she had all the support there she needed, and really Gladys did a great job. You were a highlight of the show.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, that's awesome.
I've been asked about some of the things that you mentioned during that as well by some of the members that were there that were actually Amazon sellers. And this is what I liked. I don't sell on Amazon anymore, but I made friends with several really large Amazon sellers, big ones. And I'm really enjoying them telling me about how Amazon works for them now, like just the differences from when I sold there to how it is today. So we've had a little bit of common ground to talk about how it's just different, because they remember things that I used to be able to do that you can't do now on Amazon. So it just, even though this isn't directly related to my selling on eBay, because I don't sell on Amazon, it's fun to hear what the Amazon sellers are dealing with, because I get a lot of Amazon questions anyway. But that was something that I didn't really expect to happen. I expected to go to this conference, everyone get a steal. That's what I really expected, like buy this, because most of them are. But this one, this was awesome. You went in there, they told you the information you needed, not here's some information, sign up for this course and you can get the rest. None of that. None of that. These people were giving out information that is very, very valuable. Insight into key markets, insight into shipping, insight into policies, insight, even legal information was given to us.
Oh, wow.
Freely. Nobody asked me to pay for anything extra, just to go to the convention. And that was awesome. You don't see that at every convention you go to. A lot of these are there. Of course, you have to make money, but most of these that you go to are there to sell something. This one, yes, your sponsors are selling something, but they're selling something and they're giving you something of value without asking anything in return. And I was impressed with that, because I do not like conventions. I do not like telethons. I don't like those things at all. I don't have anything to do with it. This is my first one.
Yeah. This
awesome.
Yeah, I have to agree with I have to agree with Roger on that. eCom has always been about content and not about buy my stuff, That's what I fell in love with about it last year. It was content driven and not buy my stuff. Here's this, but you need to sign up for this. It wasn't like that. It was, they gave you content, something that you can take home with you and do something with it, not like, oh, well, here's a coupon code. Now I have to go over here and pay this so-and-so $500 so that I can do something. It was really content driven. And I think that's what makes it so popular.
Yeah.
If I may add, I want to thank both of you for giving that opinion. It was very, very important for us. There's three components to this conference, and it's the attendees, and it's the sponsors, and it's the speakers. And it was so vitally important to us to make sure that there was a good matchup between all three. That the attendees had speakers that can relate to them, and the vendors had things that can relate to the speakers and the attendees as well, and that everybody had something to gain, even if it's just networking. But it was important. I didn't want a hot dog salesman there. I wanted somebody there that had some, as a sponsor, have something there to offer most of the attendees there from an e-commerce perspective. and the speakers, make sure we had a good balance between eBay and Amazon. We did social media, we did the legal stuff, and I think that the balance between the speakers, the content, the sponsors, and the attendees themselves, and the level of experience they had, that's what I think made it a difference.
Yep, I agree. I agree.
It was awesome. I mean, what I really liked is, you know, they would come on, like, I don't want to give a whole bunch of examples because it was so many, you couldn't give them all, but like, let's say WorthPoint comes on, okay? They got on stage and they were telling you about how the information needs to be in your listing, okay? Then they showed you the tools that they had and what they're going to have, what they're developing. So you don't just go there and find out, okay, if I get this software, this is what I'm going to have today. You say, okay, I get this software, this is what I'm going to have today, and this is what they're looking at in the future. I feel much more confident about buying software that I'm going to use to make money in my business when I know that they're not just looking at making that sale today, they're looking at what the market is going to need in the future. I'm giving that WorthPoint as an example of that because that's one of the things that I can't afford yet, but I am going into antiques. I am going to need it.
Oh, Roger, well, I have a year subscription if you want it.
Well, that sounds like something we got to wheel a deal off record.
So for if you want, for those that are watching the show right now that weren't there, do you want me to tell the audience who was there and talked about? So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Any links to any business?
Yeah, any links. If you want to put a link to the event or to your website,
sponsor.
Gladys, you can post to yours as well. I mean, that's fine. We don't mind.
No, that's
yeah.
Yeah, I just, it's great to get a keynote speaker in an event to be a draw to bring attendees there. We had 3 great speakers, headliners that could be keynotes anywhere, and it was, people know most of these names: John Lawson, Chris Green, and Jason T. Smith. So I mean, just that right there is enough to bring anybody to a conference. But we had a great lineup all around. We started out with Sam Cohen, who has his own Facebook groups, and what he talked about was from broke to $10 million in under 5 years.
Wow.
For Amazon. So it was a leadoff story, inspiration to everybody that, you can do great things on e-commerce. And I thought it was a great way just to get the whole conference, off in a great direction. Catherine Terrell was next, and she talked about Periscope, which is, relatively new on the planet. And many people were periscoping some of the speakers, so hopefully you can find those online. She did a great job. We had Jean-Charles from Kiwi. He was one of our sponsors. He gave us a little talk there. And then after the first break, we had Jason T. Smith. The title of his presentation was A.H.O.L.E. which spells out a-hole. So chuckle, everybody. What that means is always helping others learn on e-commerce. And he did a fantastic job with his presentation, talked a lot about, what pictures are good and what pictures aren't good to take. He does a lot of thrifting. He's very big on eBay. And he was followed up by a couple of surprise guests, which were his parents.
Oh.
His parents were in their 70s, and they just started selling on eBay. And it's like, we're in our 70s, and if we can do it, you have no excuse. So and they were very dynamic, and it was a great way to break off into lunch. There, anybody with a computer and a camera can sell on e-commerce. That was the takeaway from that. We thought that was very fantastic. That was followed by Will Seipel from WorthPoint. Andy Slamans and Maggie Kusin talked about private label on Amazon. They're a great team. They have courses on private label, but that's not really what they talked about. They talked about their story and how they got started. And again, almost every presentation was an inspiration for the rest of it. That's what's available to us. That was followed by Tanya from Bulk, which is a new online sourcing service, BULQ, where you can buy pallets of goods, brand new, reconditioned, refurbished, you can choose. After that break, Kat Simpson from That Cat, she talked about the future of eBay, whether or not that includes us and how that's going to be, good or bad for us in the future. Because, don't ever forget about eBay. It's still very, very viable out there.
Yeah.
And then, of course, our very own Gladys talked about optimizing your eBay traffic by using the tools that eBay gives you. SEO and eBay is something that Gladys knows very well. She does a lot of research and great content. Chris Taylor talked about Campaign Go, which is a service on eBay to help get our name out there and help with campaigns and Markdown Manager. They were a great sponsor, and that wrapped up the first day.
That was just the first day?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I told you, the conference was the bomb. It was great.
Yeah, people didn't want Gladys to get off the stage. So
Aw.
that was day one.
That was day one.
Day one.
That night, we had a karaoke party for anybody who wanted to go for networking. That was sponsored by the Scanner Monkey Group, who did a great job, and that was a lot of fun. We had you go on the Bubble Fast YouTube channel, you'll find a couple of videos for some of the karaoke's.
I will.
Karaoke, I was just thinking, gosh, I should have put the links over there.
You should. I want to watch that. I'm going to laugh at you guys.
That was so much fun. And then people went, casually to the bar after that. I mean, the amount of people that went to the pre-event and the after-event, just, to hang out, network, buy, a few beers or whatever, that's what it's all about. But, yeah, that was just day one. Catch your breath, get a few Z's, wake up in the morning. I did this on purpose, to be honest with you. Right after lunch, people sometimes take a little longer for lunch. Sometimes people stay out too late the night before, so they're late in the morning. So the first day, right after lunch, is when I had Jason Smith on, so that everybody would be there on time. First thing in the morning, 9:10. I don't care if you had too many beers or not. You want to hear John Lawson, you better be there on time. So we had a full house for all the presentations. John Lawson gave one of the most dynamic presentations I've ever seen. I've seen him do a lot. And his was called the Beyonce Principle and how that can help us. We're not Beyonce, but we can do some of what she did. She pre-planned her last album by only announcing it on Twitter and Facebook, and it became a #1 album. And anybody can do that kind of social media marketing, and he just nailed it. He did a great job. If you can get his presentation online, you'll love to see him again in the future. He was followed by Cliff Enico, our resident e-commerce attorney that helps us for eBay and Amazon and tells us, what kind of contracts to write if you want to do. It's good for everybody. You want to get specials and things like that, or exclusives, what to watch out for when it comes to private label. Cliff gave a fantastic presentation. A lot of people are doing Amazon, don't have time for it themselves. They can do the shopping. They can't do the prepping and the shipping. We had a great sponsor, Mary Untitled from Wisconsin Prep and Ship, where you can send all of your stuff directly to her warehouse in Wisconsin. Doesn't matter if you're in California, Kalamazoo, it doesn't matter. It's where your suppliers are. They could ship them to the United States and have Mary Untitled from Wisconsin Prep take care of all the labeling and ship the stuff in. So she was there as a sponsor.
I talked to her a little bit. She was cool.
Yeah.
Outside, I talked to her for a moment. She was really cool.
She's one of us, right? I mean, almost everybody there. That's why they're there. They're one of us. They're family.
Yeah.
And so, this was her first conference that she sponsored. She got a lot of new signups out of it without pushing, just because she has a great service, and it's a family business just like the rest of us. So that's Central Wisconsin Prep and Ship. Followed by the next break was Cordelia Blake from the Scanner Monkey Group, and she talked about how to strategically launch products and bundles on Amazon to grow your business, because it's getting tough. So you have to be creative. So launching new products with new listings and bundling products is a great way to make your products stand out and differentiate from anybody else. So she talked about that. And we could not get her off the stage. People just wanted to hear her talk because, she's got some good content.
Yeah,
unfortunately, we had to move things along because there's so many speakers and they need to get their time, but she did a great job. And then we had lunch, and that was followed by Chris Green from Scam Power, not talking about Scam Power, but talking about confidence and how, you want to have confidence. You need confidence to be great, and being great gives you confidence. So the two feed each other. And Chris always does a great job giving us confidence. And he's an Amazon seller. He taught us how to do that. That was followed by Brandon Dusky. He came last year. He was a big, huge eBay seller back in the day. He does a lot of importing from China. He goes out to China. He teaches us how to do China, how to make your listings China-proof. Because, a lot of times, China can be good, but China could be not so good if they're competing and having the wrong products. Yeah. So he talked about bundling, talked about making your products unique with, different branding. So he was also very good. Ron Lebeau, Build Your Bridge on eBay. He's a podcaster for So You Want to Sell on eBay. So he did a good job. He taught us, how to also differentiate on eBay. And that was followed up by Rich, the host, the MC, who gave us a wrap up. And it was a very, very full day, very, very full conference. We had, again, fantastic speakers. People came out of there, already. Not just, are we doing it next year, but what's the date? Because I want to mark it on my calendar right now. Yeah. And we are it's Q4, trying to take a breather, and we're already working on it for next year. Do we increase the size? Do we increase the speakers? Do we increase the days? We don't know, but, as always, we're going to respond as much as we can to the needs of the e-commerce sellers that are our audience. Yeah. And this was not about making money. This was, as Gladys said, bringing content to the attendees and helping everybody make it e-commerce.
That is awesome. I really want to be able to make it next year. Like, I really wanted to go. I felt like Roger did when we did eBay 20 and he wasn't able to go. So I feel like Roger now. I really, really wanted to go, but I couldn't make it. And then I did have eBay invite me to speak at the women's conference in Utah, literally a couple of days after that. So
I was flying home as you were flying out.
Yes. Yeah, we were like, oh, I'm on a plane. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm on a plane. We're going home. I'm leaving. Yeah.
We're at the same time, but as soon as possible, we'll get a date out so people can mark their calendars early.
That would be great, because I want to be able, well, at least personally, I want to be able to plan it because I have family that lives in Milwaukee, close to Chicago, and my husband's best friend lives around that area too, so I want to be able to do the conference, see my grandmother, let my husband see his best friend, and that way, we make the best of the whole trip, if we're already going to spend the money to go out there.
Business production mixed in with private, can't ask for it any better.
Just so you know, Melissa, a beeline straight in the middle, beeline straight down the road between Milwaukee and eCom, Bubble Fast.
Oh, yeah? Awesome.
You can't get from Milwaukee to eCom without passing by Bubble Fast, so you have to give us a wave.
I will, absolutely. I'd love to do that.
Oh, you should take advantage of that. I'd like to see a factory. You have it all set up in your warehouse.
That's fascinating. Yeah, because I bought my poly mailers from you guys. So,
we've grown in the last 3 years from one warehouse unit to now 5 as of this week.
Wow, that's awesome.
Maybe on this slide, really guys should talk about maybe do a Periscope at Bubble Fast. Put it on.
Yeah, you should totally do a Periscope on Bubble Fast. And that way,
run around.
Just
hey, this is what you're doing.
Yeah.
Where your stuff comes from.
We'll give you a quick Bubble Fast office tour.
Okay, cool.
Let's do a tour. I love it.
Here's our wall. Here's all of our stuff.
Holy moly!
Wow.
Here's our eBayana. Here's our
eBayana. I love it.
Oh wow.
Here's all my Cubs bobbleheads. Sorry, I had to throw that in.
Oh. Get any of my bobbleheads? I sell those. Oh my God.
Forget the bobbleheads. I want to know where you keep all the Bubble Fast swag. That's what I want.
Right, yeah.
Under lock and key. Because,
I bet you do.
Gladys is not allowed in the Bubble Fast warehouse.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I bet that is probably a major budget consideration to these things. How much of that swag is actually making it out that door at a convention? I bet you have to calculate that in.
We like to have fun, useful swag. It's all about fun.
Yeah.
I've got several of them here.
Roger,
So-
what was your biggest takeaway from the event?
Yeah.
Well, I learned a lot of not new things because I'm always on top of everything, but I learned a lot more of the new things that I know with better information, better intel. In other words, I don't want to give examples of everything, but like if I was learning something that I already knew was coming down the road, like a policy change next year, and when I was there, it was talked about, but it was talked about with a little bit more information than you get when you just read it. So people that are firsthand dealing with policies and changes that come down the road were there, and they were saying, "Hey, I'll just go ahead and spell it." You know the Griff's example about your shipping thing, where if you print the label today, but you don't actually get it to the post office till tomorrow morning, you can slide on a defect on that.
Right.
Okay, it was told, you know, you can get away with that now, but you realize that's going away.
Right.
Well, of course I knew that was going away, but they give you an idea of why. It's like, okay, you know, now that they're going to be looking at less points, those points are going to be more significantly observed. So the little loopholes that we've been sliding with occasionally, those things are going away. Makes perfect sense to me. But just at the conference to hear something like that mentioned in passing, and that's just one thing out of thousands of things that you pick up. You know, that's what I took away. I took away knowing, you know, how policy is at eBay and how it's going to change, like the hub. They were talking about that, of course.
Love.
Yeah, love. But that was being discussed and how it would work and what to do with those numbers. Now, not all of those were done like as speeches, but these people were talking on the slide. They're like, "Oh, what do you think of the hub? Hey, guess what? Take these numbers, and get this information from it." Just, I would have figured that out, but to have somebody who's a pro, knows what's coming down the line, tell me, okay, when this comes out, look for this. This is what you do with this when you download it. That's what I took away. I took away just the confidence of knowing that somebody knows something and they're telling me the information that I'm going to need, and I don't have to worry if the source is valid. These people make me look like, you know, a little tiny seller. These are big, huge sellers. They've been in the business a long time, you know. But the other thing I took away was outside during the little breaks. I truly enjoyed that I got the chance to speak with Amazon sellers and eBay sellers. No drama between the two, of course. This is e-commerce. Okay, we're not representing one company or another. We're out there to make money. Well, those people out there were talking to me, knowing the size of my store. You know, I'm an anchor store, but not huge. I make a lot of money, but not tons. These people have like 10,000 times this number of items that I do. Have been doing this for years longer than I have, but I'm kind of really good at social media, how to use it, your advantage. Those people that had really no reason to listen to the small seller except for, you know, what I had to say, gave me the time of day enough to listen to what I had to say, looked up my social media and saw what I was doing with it. 3 of those people are now really good private friends now that I'm sending messages back to every day, giving them some observations on their social media platforms, how they can improve it. So even though here I am a little tiny bit of nothing and they're worth millions of dollars, we were able to do an exchange. You know, they gave me things I didn't know. I mean, that's what I take away from every interaction I do. And this conference was full of it. That's what I took away.
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
I totally get that. I mean, I always feel like a tiny fish in comparison to everybody when I go to these events, and they're like, "Oh, you're so amazing," and I'm like, "Yeah, no, my tiny little store, I barely managed to get by. What are you guys talking about?" But it's always good though to have that validation and realize that, you know, the tiny fish, we can still help out. You know, we might know a little bit more about certain tech. I mean, you know, I know Kathy Terrell was a presenter there, but she wasn't really into Periscope until I pushed her and told her, "Hey, you should really get on Periscope," and now it's blown up for her.
And she did an excellent job with that Periscope too. I watched several of hers, and they are very good. Very
Yeah,
good.
she does a good job. She prepares for them beforehand. She's got a whole, she's very organized, very prepared. So she really just flew off with it, and that's what it's all about. It's not just, people talking. It's like, what can I actually do about this? What can I
You
make of
find her
it?
little niche that she's like, oh, I can do this, and then off you go
Yeah,
with it.
yeah. So, all right. Well, let me see. Is there anything, Gladys? I totally understand how nervous you were speaking in front of 200 people. This, Wednesday was the first time I ever spoke in front of 200 people either. I was shaking. But no, it went really well.
Anybody have any questions out there?
Let's see. Do we have anybody in the audience who has any questions?
You can drop me off and put someone in if you want. If someone wants to come on.
Let me see. Let's see if we have anybody that wants to join in before we drop you off.
But if they do, we can drop me off.
Yeah. Okay. So apparently no questions from Susie.
We have quite a few watchers, by the way.
We do have quite a few people watching on right now. So if anybody has any questions, any comments, if anybody wants to know a little bit about what we're talking about, just to recap for those that joined us just recently, we are going over eComChicago, a e-commerce event that just happened on October 16th and 17th in Chicago for all things eBay and Amazon, and they had an amazing lineup of speakers and sponsors. It was a terrific event, as Susie said. Roger was an attendee this year, Gladys was a speaker, and Mark is one of the organizers and the CEO of Bubble Fast. So just a quick recap, and then once I'm sure you were glad to go, Roger. I mean, that must have been amazing. It would have been really good. I hope I can make it next year. I'm really going to make the effort to go. And if anybody is out there, I was just talking to somebody recently from Chicago, and I'm like, yeah, you definitely got to go to eComChicago. You got to go to these meetups. The networking, it makes it all worth it. Even if you feel you know all this information, nobody ever knows everything that gets presented. There's always something new. E-commerce is always changing. There's always something new that you got to learn or figure out or tweak. So that's to me one of the important things of going to events like this, is just to be able to get all of that information all in one go, because we get so busy in our day-to-day lives, and we're working and we're listing and packing and whatever, and sometimes it's hard to get all of that info in. But yeah, let me see. Do we have anybody else? You guys want to make any other comments? Otherwise, I'll go on and tell you everything about the Hispanic Women's Conference.
I want to share my biggest takeaway from the eCom Chicago. My biggest takeaway was that there's more than one way to make money online. I mean, we can sell on eBay, we can sell on Amazon, but we tend to forget about the passive income, writing Kindle books, making T-shirts on Amazon. Who knew? Thank you, Chris. Chris Green. Thank you for that, because as sellers, I'm always a fan of not putting all your eggs in one basket when it comes to online selling. So I'm a multi-channel seller, and just having those extra areas where you can generate revenue from is really important. And I think as sellers, we should all tap into that, at least try it. You never know what can come out of, writing one little Kindle book or making one T-shirt. I think it's important for us e-commerce sellers to continue educating ourselves in other ways of making money online. That was my biggest takeaway.
Absolutely.
Right. It was significant too, because you could see that, one website does one thing for you, one website does something else for you, your own freestanding website does something else. So if you can take all three of those and combine them into one business, you're getting 3 times the fingers in the pie, so to speak. And I do like how that was definitely portrayed at this way. I've never seen it portrayed like that. I've always either been in an eBay meeting or an Amazon meeting. Never quits the net.
Yeah. I do have a suggestion, Mark, for next year. I'd like to see, some time spent on questions and answers, like the panels go, everybody go, all the speakers go up there and give the audience a chance to ask them different questions.
Yeah, we actually did a panel last year, and we had an eBay and Amazon guy and some other people on there, and it worked out fairly well. Not fantastic, but fairly well. And I was going to do it again this year, but it was a toss-up between having a panel that kind of worked or getting more speakers in, and more speakers and more content actually went out this time. There were some comments that we should try that. Also, we did Amazon, we did eBay, we did not do Etsy. So we're going to try to see if we can get somebody next year to talk about Etsy as well. So without expanding the conference to 3 days, which really gets long, we're trying to squeeze in as much content as we can across the board. The only other option is like everybody gets 45 minutes, give yourself, 40 minutes and then 10 minutes after that, or 5 minutes after that for Q&A. Which probably is the best way to get each speaker to answer questions from the audience. But really, we build in a lot of breaks. There's an hour-and-a-half lunch, so a lot of time for networking and asking specific questions, which is actually personally better because you get a one-on-one with the speaker of your choice, if you can find them. So we figured by doing that, it would allow us to have more content by having additional speakers.
Yeah, I like the long breaks because that's where I did all my networking. That's what I was talking about. One of the favorite things I took out was when I was outside chit-chatting. Yeah.
You learn more on those side conversations than you learn from sitting there listening to the speakers. It's those side conversations, that networking that really help drive that education and ideas start flowing.
Well, you know how I am. Someone on stage would say something, get my interest. The minute I got that break, first thing I do is went over there and grabbed him by the cuff of the neck and said, "Okay, you tell me about this."
That's all about. We booked in breaks for networking and for giving the sponsors the time to get some visitors. So it's just. The timing was, had to be precision timing, get everybody in and out on time, and give everybody an opportunity to get something out of the conference. Always room for improvement. We did send out surveys with actually overwhelming positive responses, but some good suggestions that we'll take a look at for next year.
Awesome.
And with that, everybody, I've actually got some bubble work I've got to get done.
Okay.
All right.
Mark, thank you so much for coming on to the show. We really
appreciate you guys having me. So thank you all very much.
And come back
Mark.
to the show.
Okay, thanks for joining us on eComBlab, everybody. This is part 2 of a very long blab that we're having today. So we had just finished talking about eComChicago, a really awesome e-commerce event that just happened on the 16th and 17th. And now we're going to discuss the Hispanic Women's Conference that was hosted by the Utah Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and eBay was one of the major sponsors of the event this year, and they were kind enough to invite me to go and speak and tell my story. So I'm just going to go over that a little bit with you guys. First of all, I want to mention that being a part of the government relations team, being one of their ambassadors, is all thanks to networking. I mean, I had never heard of this particular team. I mean, I know that eBay has Main Street, where they push, legislation where they're trying to get in touch with the government and the different senators and legislators, et cetera, to make sure that we're getting the laws that benefit us instead of getting crushed by these laws. So I know about that part of it, and I had already signed petitions and things like that. But then Stephanie Inge, actually, and Robin told me about the government relations team, and they were like, "Oh, you should join." I'm like, "Oh, okay, sure, why not?" So while I was at eBay 20, they had a booth there. And so that's when I went over there and I started talking to them, and I'm like, "Oh, just by the way, I speak Spanish and I speak French. So if you guys ever need anybody to talk to, a senator in Spanish or some French politician, I'm good with that." So as soon as they said that I speak English, Spanish, and French, they were like, "Oh, here's the computer, sign up here, and we'll get in touch with you." And I'm like, "Okay, awesome." Of course, I didn't really expect them to get in touch with me like 2 or 3 weeks later. I thought it would be, way down the line. But yeah, they invited me to go over to Salt Lake City in Utah, and it was a one-day event, a one-day conference for Hispanic women. It was the second year for this event too, actually. And they started just the same as eComChicago. You know, they had about 100 and something women last year, people, and then this year they had about 250 attendees. And they had put a few sponsors, and there was a few booths there and things like that. But, you know, when I got over there, I literally wrote my speech on the plane on the way to Utah. So, yeah.
I see that all that nagging about scheduling is really sinking in.
I wrote it on the plane.
I can't help myself.
I know, but you know, like, because they wanted me to tell my story, so I was like, oh, I'll just get up there and I'll wing it and I'll tell my story. Yeah, no, just no. Gladys, I'm sure you had been preparing for weeks.
No, actually, I did my slides the Sunday before, and I ended up changing a couple of things on there the night before. So not really. I didn't do too much. Yeah, I feel that I do my best work when I'm on a time crunch. I don't know why, because that just makes my anxiety even worse. But right? I do my best work on a time crunch.
Under pressure.
Yeah. I just, you know, it's just, yeah, I don't know.
It just happens.
Opposite. The least bit of pressure, throw it away. Forget it.
I mean, yeah, because, you know, I've known for months when it was going to be. Yeah. I knew for months I was going to be a speaker. And I just, yeah, okay, whatever. And then Mark was like, okay, what's the name of your presentation going to be? And I was like, I don't know. So I just threw something at him one day, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll make it of that. And I was like, what am I going to talk about now? You know, like, what am I going to say about this? I was like, I still got time. So yeah, it did, yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, I mean, so I wrote it on the plane, right? And I'm like, okay, this is decent, whatever. I still need some work. I get there, super nice hotel, by the way. I did a Periscope about it if you want to see. It's a super nice boutique hotel. And eBay gets some amazing rates, apparently, because I heard how much a night costs to a normal person who just walked in from the street and asked them at the front lobby. And I was like, ooh, $600 for a night? Oh, God. Right. Yeah. So, but obviously eBay has their rates. Anyway, the next morning, because I got there early, right, which was definitely a good thing. I flew in Sunday night, but the event wasn't until Tuesday. So Monday morning, I spent it on the phone with my father for a couple of hours tweaking the speech. So I would read it to him, and he was like, you got to mention this, you got to connect with the audience, you got to make sure that they, you know, what's in it for them, or da-da-da. So, because I've never really done public speaking like this, but my dad has, because he does a lot of presentations and TV and radio and all this stuff. So it's a good thing I had somebody with experience to really kind of like coach me through it, you know. But we got it down. I timed myself, everything. So I worked on that really hard with my dad for a couple of hours, because of course I wake up and it's like 5 in the morning over there, but to me it's 7 because that's when I wake up for my kids. So yeah, room service didn't even start till 7, and I'm like, okay, I need to fill this time. So I worked on it with my dad, and then had breakfast and whatever, got ready and whatever, and then Emily Shuttleworth from the government relations team, we met up in the lobby, and then they took me over to the Utah call center, the eBay building over there. So I immediately took some photos, and I did some periscopes. I had to tell them what I was doing. I had to show them, hey, this is in, yes, you're live, and oh, what are the hearts, and da-da-da. And so literally, you know, I showed them how that went. We had a couple of people ask some really good questions while we were there. And so, yeah, so they gave me a really nice tour to check it out. The view over there is amazing. The mountains, oh my God. It is gorgeous.
You saw the Mormon tabernacle, right? It's the Mormon tabernacle.
I got to see it, yeah, a little bit from afar. But oh my gosh, the mountains were amazing.
Really attractive at night. Lit up.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, gorgeous.
So beautiful. I'd never been, and I've seen mountains, of course, but they're different depending on where you're at. You know what I mean? Like the mountains in Puerto Rico are different from the mountains in Utah. Very different.
Definitely.
So it was really nice to see that. And yeah, so I just spent some time with Emily and Christina, who was there from the eBay team. And, we had lunch in the cafeteria and just browsing. And then I got to see this really interesting map of where eBay has either call centers or offices or something. They're like spread out all over the world. And I'm like, well, you can take me here and here and here and here.
It's like, okay, I'm the Spanish ambassador, so I need to go to this one and this one and
this one and this one.
Hey, if you pull that off, I'm going back to school and I'm gonna learn.
Well, you never know. I was like, well, you guys have something in Canada. I'll go and I'll pepper in a few French words. Anyway, but no, I mean, I'm always joking around and just having a good time with them. But then later we went to help set up for the event. So I went over there with Emily to the venue, and so it was funny because one of the organizers, Julio, he was like, Melissa, and I'm like, yeah, and he's like, yeah, I know you from your tweet. I know you're staying at the Hotel Monaco, and I saw your picture, so I recognized you. And I'm like, oh my God, he was in charge of the social media for the event for the Utah Chamber of Commerce. So he runs the Chamber of Commerce's all social media.
Talking to him?
Yeah, I talked to him for quite a bit because, I already knew what hashtag they were using. So that's why I've been using the hashtag across everything. And so that's how
That's totally not eBay, but that's probably a significant person to talk to. If you can.
Yeah, exactly. So he was handling that for them. And, he was really on top of things and he was very nice, just trying to make me feel comfortable. And, they were like, oh, do you have any slides? And I'm like, well, I know eBay has one slide that does a little quick, this is my name, this is my website. But I hadn't really prepared any slides whatsoever.
But the slides were available for this show, right? Like if you do this again, you could use more slides.
Yeah, and they were like, well, you can have as many slides as you want or whatever. And I'm like, I haven't prepared any. Yeah.
Gladys did a great job because you could tell she would look at the slide, explain it.
Yeah.
After that slide information was done, she'd go to the next one. It's kind of like, okay, you know what's in front of you, what you're going to have to explain next, and it's all prepared. You really should go slides. It'll take your nervousness away because.
Well, yeah, but and I totally do that when I'm doing a class. You know what I mean? But this was more just tell us your story. How did you become a full-time eBay seller?
Okay.
So I wasn't really giving them that much data. I did eventually
show pictures of your storage and your shipping.
Yeah, I ended up because we did them so last minute. Like Emily and I just that night when we got back to the hotel, we just we took a few pictures of eBay 20 and a few pictures of me at eBay and we made one slide of that and we took a screenshot of my website and we did another slide with that just to kind of show them. And then, time crunch that we were talking about earlier, I literally set up the services and events section of my website in 2 hours the day before I left for the event.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So if anybody goes to my website, it literally took me 2 hours, and that's it. And that's why it's just not.
You're probably going to have to tell your story again.
Oh, yeah.
That's a one-time deal. They're going to have you do that again. Because I've had to tell my story for eBay. Trust me, you're going to tell it more than once. So maybe on your next one,
I'll have more slides.
Maybe have some slides of some. Do you have even old pictures like your first camera? Just something to cue you along the way. That the audience. This is also for your audience. So the audience, when they see that image and they hear the words, they've got a visual representation of what you're teaching them or telling them, and they will remember you double as long, and what you say will sink in double as much. Even if the slide, for example, the guy that was showing the pictures, what was his name? With the beard?
Jason. I
was terrified he was going to pick some of my listing pictures to be the bad ones to show because some of them qualify. But he didn't, thank goodness. But he used this ridiculously funny picture that really, there was no other reason to use it except to make the audience laugh and remember what he was saying about using a funny picture to get your attention. So, really, I'm nagging on you about the slides, but you love
because every time we talk, you give me more work.
Yeah, visuals also help the attendees understand what you're saying. It just sinks in. It just sinks in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And as I said, I mean, I normally do that if I'm going to talk about any other subject, because this was just my story. I didn't really, and I only had like 5-10 minutes.
Right.
So I didn't, so I didn't really, that's why I didn't have all the slides. But for next time, I mean, I have the speech now. It's nice and polished. I can definitely reuse it.
Get a longer time slot in one of these. You could throw Hispanic women's references, not to yourself, but to other sellers on eBay. Like, draw in somebody else into your present.
Like Gladys. I have to start connecting with other Hispanic.
You could stick her,
because there's not that whole. I mean, there's probably plenty of us, but I don't think we've, everything's in English, and so that's something that I wanted to talk to you guys. Like, I did say a few words in Spanish during the speech, and then of course, as soon as I was done, even before, because my speech didn't start until like 1 p.m. So the whole time I got there at 9 in the morning. So I'm networking with everybody and meeting everybody from 9 to 1, and then I do my speech for like 10 minutes, and then the rest of the day, I'm sorry, I was talking to the attendees in Spanish. So it was really interesting to see, like, there's so much interest. They want to learn, they want to join, they want to sell on eBay or Amazon, or they want to do what we're doing. But because of the language barrier, they feel intimidated, So I'm going to actually start focusing a little bit on that niche and start offering.
One of the questions that comes up to mind, I've listed Spanish books on eBay.
Yeah.
I write the titles in Spanish. I always wonder, am I wasting my time writing these titles in Spanish or not? I'm sure that's a relevant question.
It is. And I've always had a little bit of that same concern, and it's like, should I translate my listings because I can?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, most people searching online, if it's a title of the book, you got to write the title of the book as it is. If it's in Spanish, write it in Spanish, and make sure that the author and stuff, because that's how they're going to search for it. But a lot of buyers, most buyers are just like me, we'll search for it in English because we know that's what it's going to pop up in, and we'll use the
That's another question.
Yeah, but the description
title is in a Spanish description. You put both.
Yeah, I'm not gonna start translating my descriptions because I will never finish.
There's no need to translate because if
with the translator,
right, the websites translate, because if they're doing a search for on eBay in Italy or Spain or whatever, it's gonna translate.
I sell to Puerto Rico all the time.
Yeah, it
all
translates
the time.
in their language.
Oh, so it will translate more than, but it's more it's more like, even if you translate the website, even if you have eBay in Spanish, I still get my in-laws calling me and asking me to help them figure out the website, even though they have it in Spanish, which makes me go bonkers because I'm used to it in English.
Because there's different dialects. It's the dialect.
Yes,
it's different dialects.
Yes, and that's where it gets a little tricky. But what I basically want to do is, like, there's so many of us offering coaching or teaching or in different aspects, but everything is in English. And I'm in Orlando, where there's a humongous Hispanic community, and the Hispanics were like becoming the #1 minority. Pretty soon we will be here in the States. Well, eventually we won't even be a minority.
I don't think
so.
Honest, right?
We're almost not technically a minority anymore. There's so many.
Yeah, I don't think.
I mean, it just, So I want to tap into that market, and so I did get a few people, asking for my information after the speech and wanting to get coaching and stuff like that. So I'm still kind of in the process of structuring. Okay, what am I going to teach? I'm going to contact eBay and ask them for whatever materials they already have in Spanish. So there's no need for me to translate if it already exists. But but just kind of, you know, like we know, Gladys, like the information that we provide, it's out there. You know what I mean? But it's that having somebody who knows what they're talking about walk you through it and save you the time and the hassle of having to do all this work and research on your own and just give it to you masticado.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like all chewed up and ready type of thing. So
Like
that's
mezcal almost. I know what the
it's actually it's slang. It's chewed up.
well, that's how you have. If you have mezcal, that's how you feel. That's the thing with the little worm in it, right? Mezcal. I've had that.
Yeah. But so yeah, and it was great because, you know, I definitely felt a lot of support from everybody. I got a lot of good tips because I was like, I'm so nervous. I'm gonna be shaking up there. I hope I don't fall flat on my face. I practiced going up and down on the stage before the day of the event. I was like, yeah. And then I get up there and I'm like gripping the podium and I'm like, you gotta let it go of it. Use your hand gestures. You're Hispanic, remember? And so I did. I didn't walk around the stage, but I was able to look up and speak and use the hands and make a couple of jokes and everybody really enjoyed it. And, you know, I got a lot of positive feedback from Sarah Brubacher as well, because she was there, one of the VPs on eBay. Her title is the seller evangelist. So basically her job is to make it as amazing, well, we know how amazing it is to be an eBay seller. So she's just basically our evangelist type of thing. So she gave it a really awesome presentation right before me, and she showed one of the videos that they had shown at eBay 20, you know, just basically showing eBay's history kind of thing. It's one of the really nice videos that they did. And then she introduced me and I went up there and I was like, oh my God. But no, you know, it was fine. I didn't stammer too much. I didn't do too many ums. So it went really well.
Yeah, I got to work on my ums.
it just comes out.
Yeah.
My thing is when I first get up on the podium, I'll white knuckle the podium. But then after I let go of the podium and start walking around, then you gotta pull me off the stage with a hook, because I'll just go. I'll flop right on the edge of the stage, sit down, and start talking.
I focused on the first 3 front rows because
I identify with somebody in the rows.
Oh,
that
man.
was everybody.
I don't think I made eye contact. I don't think I made eye contact with anybody. I kind of looked at the audience, but without focusing on any one single face. Like, yeah, I'm looking at all of you at the same time, but I cannot make eye contact or I will.
Yeah, I made eye contact
a couple of times, but you are going to have to go out there and walk around and make eye contact.
Oh no, I'll have to get used to it. But you know, it's first time.
Yeah,
so.
yeah,
but no,
as long as you don't go up there and go,
yeah, no.
Because I have almost done that before. But
No, it was great because I got a lot of feedback later because, you know, Sarah was giving me tips the whole time before I went up. You know, she was like, make sure to smile, don't go on too long, make sure that you keep it short and sweet, don't worry about it. You know, I've messed up things really bad. People don't remember the exact words that you say. They remember how you made them feel, And I'm like, okay, you know, I'll be able to do this. I'll be fine. And I was fine until I actually got up there, and then my hands were like this.
Then the realization, the floodlights come on.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, okay. But I started off being honest with them and be like, you know what? I'm nervous. This is my first time ever speaking to such a huge group. I'm incredibly honored. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about my story. And it's a good thing I had, you know, the speech written down and I just kind of referred to it. I would go ad-lib and whatever. But, you know, it was great. You know, they were all so very sweet. There was a lot of people wanting to take pictures with us, with the eBay girls kind of thing, because, you know, I had my eBay shirt on. And Nelly Galan was there. She was the keynote speaker. And I'm a bad Hispanic, but I didn't know who she was until later. And turns out that she is the one who started Telemundo. Yeah. Which, Gladys, you should know what Telemundo is.
Huge.
Yeah. So huge. Yeah, exactly. You know, because Julio, the social media guy, he introduces me to her and she's like, oh, you should meet her. She's going to love to meet you. And I'm like, okay, she's obviously important, but I have not the slightest idea who this lady is. And then she was super nice. She was like, oh, I love eBay sellers. I just wrote a book about, women starting businesses from their home. And I mentioned eBay seller stories. I want your information. I want to talk to you later. And I'm like, great, awesome, fantastic, And then when they do her presentation and they show this video of her life achievements, she started Telemundo. She was on Celebrity Apprentice. She's the founder of the Adelante movement with Coca-Cola. All these huge things, books, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm over here like, oh my God, I just met Nelly. I have no idea. And then, what was really awesome is she kept referring back to me during her speech, because hers was after mine. And she was like, I loved Melissa's speech. She stands for everything that I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, ladies. Every person should have their own business. And Melissa, I'm glad that you admitted that you were scared, because that makes you more likable. And did it like 10 times she mentioned me in her speech. And I'm over here blushing. Like,
that's awesome.
It was really good. And we got our pictures taken later, and she told me that she wants to do a webinar with me and everything. So I'm like, holy moly. Nice. That is awesome. And I told my dad about it later, because he's been on Telemundo and Univision and all these programs, and he knows when she was born, where she's from, he knows who she was. And I'm like, yeah, Dad, so I just got to meet her. And he was like, oh, that's all.
Well, the only people I know on Telemundo were the actress, I forget her name now, but she was Maria of the Barrio. I forget her name.
Oh my God, Talia.
Yes, that's who it is. Talia. I used to watch that stuff.
Oh my God, that's one of the few novelas I never watched.
Oh my God, Roger's watching novelas.
I had to. If I went over to change it, the maid would have pulled out her knife and cut me. I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. She said you can do anything you want, but do not touch the TV. And every day, that's actually how I started to learn Spanish. Was listening to that thing every day.
Oh no! Can you imagine Roger speaking in telenovela?
Just a little bit of Spanish. Not very good. Not very good. But I started to learn. I can understand a lot more than I can speak. And I was starting to understand it. And I went after she leaves, I'd start talking to people, and I would start using a few of the Spanish words like "oye" and "soy," and not I would actually conversation. It was very funny.
Oh, you're killing me, man. So, yeah, no, but I mean, it was great. I had I actually had also somebody contact me from there that was at the event, that they wanted to interview me for one of their local radio stations and everything. So, I mean, Gladys, I'm sure you had this too, and Roger, like you go to these events and you make connections, you make possible business partners, or you get possible clients, or all these things that you would never be able to do otherwise, and you really have no idea what's going to come up or happen when you go to these things, but the potential is so huge.
Right.
Oh yeah,
it opens up doors for you. It
really does.
Well, and even if nothing really happens except for you go there and exchange ideas, you're exchanging ideas with major players. I mean, how many companies do you get a chance to go and meet the major players? Not only the major players that are running the company, but your competition, the other sellers, and then sit in the same room with your competition and exchange ideas on how to improve each other's business.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that happening in very many companies I've ever involved with in the past.
No. Most definitely not. I don't think you're going to go to a cell phone conference and have AT&T and Verizon and T-Mobile being chummy with each other.
Exactly. And that is a major consideration in when I choose what platform I sell on. Because I'll be honest with you, I could sell on anything. I could sell on Bonanza and make as much money. Not as much because I wouldn't have a network. But if I worked my butt off, I can market that stuff on Bonanza. It wouldn't matter what network I sell on. The reason I really stick with my eBay is because I love the company. I like that they had their drama a year ago and they've gotten through it. I was there before their drama, right before. I was actually at eBay when they were going to do this. And then I'm here after. And there's a reason I'm here before and after. It's because I knew the company would form into what it's formed into now. It had to go through that.
Right. Growing pains.
And I'm afraid what Amazon's going to go through next. I think they're going to
I don't know.
that all of those little lists of sellers on a one item page is just going to be Amazon selling that item very soon. I think that's coming.
Well, I mean, that's what they're doing already with a lot of listings. You know what I mean? So like I don't like that. I really don't. And, you know, I make good money on Amazon, but to be honest, like I've gone back and forth with my feelings for which one I want to stick to. And, you know, I really am going to keep both. But I have.
And, you know, I'm going to jump on that Amazon thing where you send in and get your T-shirts and your hats. And
the merch. Yeah, the merch.
The merch. I'm really going to start looking.
I've got to find out about the legal part. I want to know that if I put my dragon logo, that I'm using massive marketing. You know, seeing 1.25 million people a month do that stuff. Okay, if I'm going to be using that on merchandise, I want to make sure that once I send this in, how much of my rights to that merchandise am I signing away? I imagine it's all of it because they're going to be marketing the product. So I'm going to have to really check carefully into it. But I'll tell you, once I actually get my design and I'm ready to rock and roll, I will go for that big time. I will have 20 or 30 different dragon designs done, and I'll just try to slam it all over the place with that stuff. Everything from tattoos looking ones to the comedy ones.
Right.
And then put my little Key Webco words right there in the bottom. You know, huge, big product, big, flashy dragon, all done for a little tiny word at the bottom that says Key Webco. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to look into it. I'm going to go off the record since we're not going to actually be covering this. Like we could, I want to talk about this, but not on.
All right, good deal.
Of course you did. Okay. Yeah, you know, yeah, I did get asked a few questions about as to what to sell. And, you know, what I told them is like you start with what you have in your house and you get your feet wet. And once you get the hang of it, you'll start realizing what works best for you. And, you know, I tried a bunch of different methods of sourcing, and it kind of really depends on what you have available. But, you know, there was one person that I spoke to, and he's like, oh, I have handbags, leather handbags and products from Venezuela that I have access to that are beautiful, that would probably sell very well, and they're not available, you know, widely available on the internet. And I'm like, well, definitely, you know, you bring them over here to the States because you don't want to have them shipped from Venezuela. That wouldn't work. But you order them, you get them over here in the States, and you list them. You take some good photos, you do a good listing, and you see, you know, if you already have, and of course, don't go all in if you're not sure how well they're going to sell. You know, start with the few you have around in the house, test the market. You know, so. I don't know if they're probably not a brand that we would know. It might be a Venezuelan brand, or it just might be
branded for that seller. Like, is it a warehouse source? Is that they're?
No, I didn't really go into that much detail with him, but you know, I just kind of give him an overview. But yeah, I mean, it just would depend, you know, if it's a brand that he owns or that he can private label type of thing or type of deal, then yeah, definitely that would be to his advantage. But even if he can, yeah, but even if he couldn't, you know what I mean? Even if it's a brand that just exists in Venezuela, but nobody else is selling it or listing it on eBay, you know, go for it.
Unique or unusual.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, and the one lady that called me that she wants to do coaching in a couple of weeks, you know, she has no idea what to sell. She's a part of one of these multi-level companies, but she's not sure what she's going to sell. So that will be interesting for me to pinpoint what's going to be her best sourcing option as well, because I know a lot of people are interested in the drop shipping, and it definitely works, but you kind of have to know what niche you're going to go for, what products you're going to go for.
Drop shipping as their first selling stuff, are you?
I don't think that's the first thing I'm going to teach. No, that's a higher level. Yeah, and that would be a separate coaching session there.
Because I don't even have my mind completely around all of the nuances required for it. I know there's plenty to deal with, and so I wouldn't mess with it unless I had some serious.
No. I mean, the first thing I wanted to, you know, because it's just like the A to Z, you know, so like, how do you open your eBay account? How do you connect it with your PayPal and everything? Because they don't really know even these basic things. So I really want to, handhold them so that they don't feel intimidated, so that they don't mess up their settings on their PayPal account and put it to the wrong bank account or something, or to the wrong credit or debit card, because we get so many buyers that are Spanish speakers that I see that they make these type of mistakes when they're purchasing. So I know that if somebody isn't helping them out when they're setting up
infographics, step by step on an infographic. There's a free program. I'll have to look it up and send it to you for that.
Yeah.
And
so, I want to help them out with that and just kind of teach them, how do you do a listing? How do you write a good title? Even if your English isn't great. So if your English isn't great, what tools can you use so that that you're at least, even if we all know it doesn't have to be a coherent sentence, but you have to get the right words in there.
You should make a list of English words to avoid. English words that can often mean more than one thing. And I am sure that people with language issues would definitely put many of those words in their descriptions and listings that could actually get them a defect. So maybe
or bureaued or
sit down and actually make a list of words not to use, English words and descriptions to avoid. That might be a good list to make.
That would take some research on my part, but
a little hard, but that would be a great list.
Yeah. But definitely, I want to teach them how to do good titles, how to do good descriptions, how to use the item specifics. I mean, these are things that we deal with English-speaking sellers every single day in our Facebook group. And these are people that have more experience and that don't have language barriers. But how many times do we have to work on this with them? All the time.
Poor Gladys. I don't know how many times people can ask her the same question over and over.
Yeah.
How many times do you have to take HTML out of your description?
Yeah, I know.
Ask it 10,000 times, 10,000 different ways.
But I want to be able to teach them from the beginning. This is how you do a listing right from the get-go. You don't have to do all the mistakes that we did. You don't have to do all the deleting of HTML and changing of the fonts and changing of what's included in there, because it's clear cut now what works. Did you guys get your latest PayPal thing that tells you how many of your buyers are mobile versus desktop?
Oh yeah. I'm at 42%.
At what percent?
42. I'm down.
42.
I was actually I fluctuate a lot, but I'm at 42. I've gone down because of the heavy HTML that I'm still removing in my description. What about the little dragon thing? It showed on mobile, but once they took that away, now it's locked in code, so I have to go and delete it all.
Right.
I immediately
take it over.
Down on.
Yeah. What about you, Gladys? How many mobile?
38% last month. 38.
Okay, mine is at 58.
See, that's the numbers that I want. That's
58% of my sales are mobile, and I was like, "Holy moly!"
It all
when I started
depends on the category too, and it also depends on whether you do a lot of social media and stuff. And I've dropped the ball when it comes to social media. I haven't really done any, but
I've been upping my
put something in group and get it moved.
Yeah.
Social media.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that the fact that my competitors, my direct competitors, their listings are not mobile friendly is helping me in search.
Because you have manufactured products. I've seen some of the listings that are similar to yours, and I mean they're awful. The text has these great big dots, and the print is real small in bold letters.
Because they're
black marker letters, but make it
here's what the thing is: they're either copy pasting directly from the manufacturer's website, or they're copy pasting it from Amazon. And don't get me wrong, I do that too, but I edit mine. I change the text size. I remove any bullet points. I remove the I make it the way that it's supposed to look, and I might delete some of the description and add in a couple of sentences of my own just to make it a little different, so it's not so Google actually picks them up.
Speaking of which, Gladys, I have taken a lot of that 18-point text. Now, of course, there's tons all over my store, but I have been going back, and as I'm editing, putting all of it to 14. and I look, and it does look better. Some of them are really, really good with the 18 on mobile, but the 14 does just look better. Because if I have too many words, which is very unusual, because I barely write a description as it is, but if I have too many words, it goes past the screen at 18.
Yeah, 14 was the one that rendered the best across all the devices, and you know, I tested this, you know, throughout all the groups with different devices, different people helping me, sending me the screenshots, and 14 was the one that really
worked.
So like basically anytime I edit from now on using the hub, which I love, I will use the thing and change my text to 14, even my big ones.
Yeah.
We should do a t-shirt. We should do a t-shirt on Amazon, and it'll say "Love the Hub."
Love the eBay Hub. I bet it would sell.
I bet you it would. I bet you it would. Oh man, no, but it's it's just that kind of thing. But you know, like my biggest challenge, Gladys, and I don't know about you. I know you have Kathy Keith helping you out with this. My biggest challenge right now with the offering the coaching is getting that funnel, that sales funnel set up correctly, getting the website so that it showcases what I can do and what I've already done and what I'm doing in future, and making it so that it's easy for them to sign up for the emails, and having a couple of free things that they can watch, and free webinars or free videos, but then getting them to buy the you know, whatever materials I end up making, because you know, it's like such a huge, it's like a completely new enterprise for me. And I'm like, oh my God.
Well, I'm not doing that at this point. I'm not offering services yet. I will eventually, probably sourcing.
Yeah, I eventually had to, because my Facebook emails, I can't keep up. I can't keep up, you know, and then getting tagged in the various Facebook groups, you know, I ended up having to, you know, offer services. You know, I still answer questions, you know, all the time for free, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Too many. I mean, I get so many questions coming in. I get them for every reason. I'm not known for one particular thing.
Right.
They ask me about everything.
Yeah.
I get so many of them. I'm like, you know, I need to figure out a way to funnel these down. That's why I'm doing my little video clips, record YouTubes. My YouTube page is full. Is it full of anything for my business? No, it's all full of questions that I answered for myself years ago.
Yep. And that's what I'm going to start doing.
Other sellers.
That's what I'm going to start doing soon, is the YouTube videos with the free content in there, because it's just easier to answer the questions and have a place to send them, you know, because again, the whole
free content for the basic structure of something.
Right.
And then if you want to learn how to take it to the next step forward, then a digital download of some kind.
Right.
I mean, you can basically set it up to be a little bit of revenue for yourself, but give all the basic answers for free. And then, hey, if you want to take it to the next level, this is what you can do with it.
Right.
And I think that would be that would be good marketing, as well as you would be providing a service for everyone that can't afford your service. Exactly. They'll get their basic answer, and they'll know that there's more they can learn, and then maybe they can come back later and learn anything and do it right then.
Yeah, and I mean, basically, you know, we offer free information all day, every day, all the time, and I don't think that that's going to stop. Like, just because I want to offer coaching now doesn't mean that I'm going to suddenly not type anything. You know what I mean? Like, no, I'm doing it because I enjoy it. But I definitely want to start getting paid for my services if I'm going to walk somebody through it. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm actually going to take them by the hand and be like, this is how you type here,
this is what you type there.
This is how you type it. This is, you know, we're going to do a Skype video conference, and I'm going to screen share with you, and I'm going to show you exactly what it is that I do and exactly what it is that you want to do. And I'll be your guide. That I have to be paid for. I haven't done that. I haven't actually done that for people, but
no problem at all.
Right.
But if you understand, I am so busy that every 5 minutes that I lose is part of a listing that's not getting written up. I mean, I have that amount of volume to do. And so if I take 5 minutes to explain something to somebody that asks me a question for free, I have to add up all those 5 minutes during the day. We get into several hours a day.
Yeah.
That it's adding up to. So what I've done now is I just let all the questions come in and I pick out, okay, this one is this answer. I basically bulk email them all out, the same videos for whatever their questions are. No personal touch. Now, when they come back, a few of them come back and say, okay, I got your video. I kind of understood it. Can you tell me about this? Now, that's a totally different story. That's private message. I'll spend an hour on that, waste an hour of my money on their helping because they learned something on their own and they need help now. They're just not asking for the easy answer. See, that's what I cannot tolerate anymore. I am tired of just ask him, he'll know. Okay, well, yeah, that's okay. But after I've answered that same question 4 or 5 times, maybe you should have just watched the video. Quit asking me to answer your question again. You know, they take it not having to learn. They want an easy button sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go off